Any man can have non-ejaculatory orgasms. It just requires understanding that when you move towards an ejaculatory orgasm, you're going in a more stress and tension-based pathway in your nervous system, your mind and body. Whereas going into non-ejaculatory orgasms requires you to go through this relaxation response, more centered in the parasympathetic nervous system. So in the practice you're going to learn, you are going to start to shift and rewire your mind and body to explore that relaxation pathway, which puts you in the realm of sustained full body orgasm without ejaculating. I'm Jonathan White. I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so you can manifest your ideal life. Make sure you hit subscribe to support the channel and get my free ejaculation control course through the link in the video description below. So I'm going to share a really simple practice that you can use to start experiencing non-ejaculatory orgasms. First of all, I need to frame this with the understanding that this is a very, very different experience than an ejaculatory orgasm. What a lot of men go into this expecting is to have ejaculations without the ejaculation, like have ejaculatory orgasms without the ejaculation. And it's a completely different experience. And if you haven't already, check out some of my other recent videos on non-ejaculatory orgasms to understand more of the how and why and my own theory on this, because I want to keep this more of a practical step-by-step guide sort of thing. But the most important thing is to realize that you've conditioned yourself to experience exclusively ejaculatory orgasms by creating certain patterns in your mind and body. And that's a tension response. Tension in the pelvic floor, shallow breathing, pushing yourself towards the edge. A reaction to visual stimulation, overstimulation in the mind. Whereas to get into this non-ejaculatory orgasm state requires relaxation. It requires, instead of a buildup of tension in the pelvic floor, being able to allow that information, the nervous system information, the sensations within the genitals to spread throughout the whole body. And breathing deeply and relaxing really, really helps to support this process. So what you're going to do is have a self-stimulation session, self-pleasure session. Of course, you can do this with a partner, but it's going to be easier to do this initially outside of the context of sex for most men. This requires a mind state shift. Instead of thinking of like there's somewhere to go, like, okay, this feels good, but I need to push this farther. It's more about feeling what's already happening, feeling the pleasure that is happening from stimulation and seeing how much you can relax and absorb all of your senses into that. Think of this more as a meditation on sensation and pleasure than it is you're trying to make something happen. In fact, going into this without any expectation of orgasm is the best thing you can do, because that expectation alone creates a contrivance and it's going to bring you back into that stress and that force that draws you into ejaculatory orgasm. And part of the reason for this is that men have so much stress and tension in their minds and bodies that they actually crave the release that an ejaculation creates, but you're not going to get that type of release from non-ejaculatory orgasms. So having other ways to release that tension is extremely important so that you aren't just using and abusing the ejaculatory function as a way to release stress, because it's a sure way to dry up your depletion and sexual function in the long run, as over-ejaculation is very exhausting to the male endocrine system. So what you're going to do is relax deeply as you stimulate yourself and breathe deeply through your belly. Release all tension from your body, especially your pelvic floor. There's a tendency for men to contract the pelvic floor, often from masturbation habits, because it draws you closer to sharper levels of pleasure, which bring you towards ejaculation. And also is just an unconscious stress response. It's where men hold a lot of tension. So you focus on relaxing the pelvic floor entirely. Close your eyes, be 100% in your body. Do not use sexual fantasy. Do not use any visual stimulation. This is going to pull you back into that model of build up towards ejaculation. Just be in your body, breathe deeply, and notice what you feel as you stimulate yourself. And you may not get hard right away. You may not get hard at all. It doesn't matter. The penis is still sensitive. It can still feel pleasure without extreme hardness. So you think of it more as a massage, stimulating your erogenous areas. And as you're doing that, breathe fully, relax. Notice any tendency to tense up, to contract, or to intensify your stimulation as you would have before. Let go of that. You want to make this very subtle, very relaxed, slow building stimulation. Just notice any sensations of pleasure. And as soon as you feel them, concentrate on those sensations and just completely absorb all your awareness, all your being into that sensation. And think of breathing deeply, breathing into the sensation. And what happens is you can start to ride these waves of sensation into more and more pleasurable sensations, essentially. And in the beginning, these waves will kind of fizzle out. It's very normal. But what happens the more you practice it is that the more you relax, you don't try to get anywhere. You just surrender to what is happening. You breathe fully, breathe deeply. And whenever you feel those little waves of pleasure, you just absorb yourself into them, breathe into them, relax deeper into them, and continue the stimulation that you're doing that created it. the more you'll be able to ride these waves and they'll start to build into more and more pleasurable sensations. Now, this is different than the buildup you feel into an ejaculation. If you feel like you're going into an ejaculation, then you probably are. Now, there can be an overlap between this type of sensation that builds up to an ejaculation with this buildup of these pleasurable waves. But in the beginning, it's going to be something much more subtle. And that's what I want you to really focus on, is the subtlety of it. And that's really about it for now. I mean, there's more advanced techniques we can get into, but without a foundation in this practice alone, it's going to be difficult. But this practice alone is enough for you to start rewire. It truly is this rewiring process. You rewire yourself from this force and expectation and goal-oriented approach of just trying to get off. And you get more into an observer mode where you're simply there, relaxed, observing what's happening, breathing into sensation, make some sound, move your body. Anything to just get you in this zone of feeling the pleasure. And you can even experiment with, can I feel that pleasure? Can I move it with my mind? Can I move that pleasure into my belly? Can I feel that it's connected to my spine? And you start to experiment with these things, then it takes you in a very, very different realm of sexual experience. And what you'll find is after 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes, however long you're doing it for, of doing this practice, maybe you don't have a mind-blowing orgasm, but when you open your eyes, you're going to feel very different. You're going to feel like you're in this altered state of like, whoa, I was very in my body. I was just riding this pleasure. And sure, you didn't have a mind-blowing, toe-gripping ejaculation, but you're starting to dip your toes into a deeper realm of sexual experience. And the more that you work with this, the more powerful this orgasmic experience can become. And eventually it can really dwarf the ejaculatory orgasm in its scope of depth, of eventually intensity, and overall fulfillment, because you can make these last as long as you want and you aren't limited by when you ejaculate and then have to go through the refractory period. One other recommendation I have is do not think about sexual imagery, body parts, just completely feel connected to your body and create a sense of love. A heart-centered energy of love. Like, I love myself, I love my life, I love the universe. And so this creates a very different quality of your mind and your intention for your practice. And just play with that. You can get very far with this practice alone. It's going to completely shift you from this porn-conditioned, frantic model of trying to just force your way into getting off into a more expansive, spacious realm of being deep inside your body and being deep inside sexual sensation. And this will carry over very well into sex. So I recommend you set aside 20 to 30 minutes to do this practice and do not ejaculate at the end. At the end, take some time to do some deep breathing, let your body just absorb the energy you've built up. Continue on with your day, see how you feel. And if you're interested in learning more about how to train yourself to experience powerful non-ejaculatory orgasms, how to develop powerful ejaculation control, and the ability to circulate sexual energy through your entire body, I teach this in my program, Multi-Orgasmic Man, which is essentially designed similar to athletic training in that you go through training splits throughout the week, training all these different qualities in your mind and body to rewire out of the porn-conditioned response to just ejaculate very quickly and completely reshape yourself to be able to sustain high levels of sexual pleasure for as long as you want. Put information to that in the description of this video. Have a great day, my friends.